Hello all, welcome to my geography classes. So today in this video I will explain the structure of the earth, how the earth is divided into different layers, its internal structure into different layers based on the chemical composition and the physical or mechanical properties of the earth. So based on the chemical composition, the earth is based on the chemical composition, the earth is divided into three main layers, that is crust, the first one, the uppermost one, and the second one is mantle, and the third one is the core. So these three are the different layers of the earth based on the chemical composition. So first we will look at the crust, that is the uppermost layer and the thinnest layer of all the three layers of the crust, mantle and core. So the continental crust and the oceanic crust. Actually the crust is divided into two main components, that is the oceanic crust and the second one is the continental crust. Continental crust is the one on which we live and the oceanic crust on which the oceans are currently present. The continental crust is majorly made up of silica and aluminum, that's why we are calling it as the Cl, and the continental crust is more thicker than the continental crust. Sorry, the continental crust is more thicker than the oceanic crust, and it is very light and it is made up of granite. And what happens in case of the oceanic crust? Oceanic crust is made up of silica and magnesium, and it is thinner than the continental crust, and it is denser and made up of the basaltic rocks. And after the crust we will see the mantle layer. The boundary between the crust and the mantle, or the crust and the mantle, is divided by the Mohorovicic discontinuity. What is this Mohorovicic discontinuity? It is a boundary between the crust and the mantle layer. It divides the characteristics between the crust and the mantle layer, the chemical composition between the crust and the mantle layer. So from the Mohorovicic discontinuity, the characteristics or the chemical composition of the rock changes. The crustal rock, from the crustal rock it will comes to the mantle, that is the boundary, right? So after the Mohorovicic discontinuity we will find the mantle, and the mantle is the largest layer, which is almost about 84% of the total volume of the earth. Okay, and it is about 2900 kilometers thick. See, this is the mantle layer, right? And then we can see the core layer. So the silicates and the mantle is made up of iron and magnesium. See, the continental crust or the crust actually is made up of Cl and Cma, and when we see the mantle we can see that it is made up of iron and magnesium. So here see the chemical composition of crust and mantle varies, right? The changes has been started from the Mohorovicic discontinuity. So after that, when we go deeper, the density increases with the depth in the mantle layer, and the boundary that is dividing between the mantle layer and the core, actually it is the Gutenberg discontinuity. So when we go from mantle to the core, mantle is made up of what? Iron and magnesium, right? Silicates rich in iron and magnesium. So what happens in case of the core? It is made up of the iron and nickel. So here we can see the chemical composition is changing. From where it is changing? From the Gutenberg discontinuity it is changing the chemical nature. So that's why the Gutenberg discontinuity will act as the boundary between the mantle and the core region, and the core region, here we can see the lastmost layer. So the core is the innermost and the densest layer, and mostly made up of iron and nickel, and which have a density of about 11 grams per centimeter cube. And the core is also divided into two components, that is the outer core and the inner core. The outer core is mostly liquid and the inner core is purely solid, and the discontinuity between the outer core and the inner core is called as the Lehman discontinuity. So after seeing the different layers of the earth based on the chemical composition, then we will see the different layers based on the physical and mechanical properties of the earth. Okay, based on the physical and mechanical properties, we will divide it. So the first and the outermost layer is the lithosphere. Here we can see the lithosphere, right? This is the lithosphere. Lithosphere consists of the crust plus the uppermost solid mantle. So crust plus uppermost solid mantle, which gives us the lithosphere. Lithosphere is very rigid and it's not liquid, it's very solid in nature, and it is the lithosphere layer is broken into various tectonic plates. What are these tectonic plates? Because of which the mountains, right, and various other volcanoes and earthquakes are happening because of these tectonic plates. Regarding the tectonic plates, we will discuss in the other topic, okay? But here what we need to understand or remember is that key tectonic plates are present, like the lithosphere is broken into different plates and these are floating on the layer below it, that is the asthenosphere. So these tectonic plates are floating below the lithosphere or above the asthenosphere, which is in the semi-molten or plastic like. And what is the driving force behind the movement of these tectonic plates? It is the convection cycle that is happening in the asthenosphere, okay? And the convection cycle also we will discuss in the another video, okay? So this is the asthenosphere on which the lithosphere tectonic plates will float. And then after we will see the mesosphere, that is also in the mantle region only, but it is the lower mantle beneath the asthenosphere till the core, and it is rigid due to the pressure present, okay? So after that we will understand the core, okay? So in the core region, it is divided into outer and inner core, and the outer core is mostly like liquid and the inner core is solid in nature. As you can see that liquid and inner core is solid, and the inner core has a radius of about 1220 kilometers, okay? And because of the movement of iron and nickel in the outer core, the earth is generating the magnetic field. Because of this flowing of iron and nickel in the outer core only, the magnetic field is getting generated, and the inner core is solid due to the immense amount of temperature and pressure. So this is about the structure of the earth, how it is divided into different layers based on the chemical composition and the physical and the mechanical properties. Thank you.